Hey class, I wanted to try and give you a taste of some of the work I've been doing on indigenous religions here in Wyoming. So I'm going to try to run a little PowerPoint. I'm going to turn this is kind of a 30-minute lecture, so I'm going to try and turn it into 3 sections for you, so 10 minutes each. And we'll see whether it works. I don't even know if the technology can do this, so we'll see if it works. So here we go. And let's go to slideshow. There we are. So this is a paper I gave last year at a conference, and for those of you who are near Cody or Powell and or have driven through Cody to get to Yellowstone or to Billings or any of that, you might recognize Heart Mountain. It's the mountain north of Cody. Buffalo Bill was very attracted to its prominent beauty, and so located his town just to the south of it, near what the Crow called the Teepee's entrance, the canyon, because that would bring them into Yellowstone. So this is a paper all about Heart Mountain and what it means in Crow cosmology. So here we go, and my Crow is rudimentary at best. You'll hear that I even stumble trying to say these words, but I am trying to learn. So, returning to Ikapalakchi, Foretop's father. So here's Grant Bulltail, and he is the Crow elder I have been working with. I just realized that slide's not working perfectly. That's Grant Bulltail, one word. And he's an Apsalaka. And Apsalaka is the Crow name for themselves. He's an Apsalaka elder and pipelighter. Was a Marine from 62 to 66. Got his BS from University of Montana in 74. In 75, he began folklore studies with Dr. Fife at Utah State, but then had the opportunity to work in the oil industry and took that opportunity. So we lost us a folklorist to the possibility of a real income. I can't blame him. I'm gonna go. So he learned his stories from the his great-grandfather. He Comes Up Red. This is a picture of He Comes Up Red holding Grant. Uh-oh, that phone's just got to ring through. Back when Grant was an infant, that's Grant up there. I am so disturbed by that phone. So this picture was taken in 1942 in Black Lodge, near the Little Bighorn River. Let's see, what else do you need to know about him? He has taught at the Tribal College, taught for the state of Montana, worked for the BIA. He's consulted as an expert and can be seen on the BBC film Unnatural Histories and the PBS film Before There Were Parks. He Comes Up Red was born near my house in Cody, so over near the base of what we call Carter Mountain. They called it White Bear Mountain. And He Comes Up Red brought Grant to the area extensively to tell him stories, as well as to dance on the porch of the Irma as part of 1940s economic life for Crow people. Tells you something about the tourist economy at the time as well. Now, it's the tradition of Crow storytelling that many people would listen and many people would contribute to the telling. And this process creates a cultural geography populated by a variety of stories. But due to the devastation of settler conquest, Mr. Bulltail notes that currently Crow oral culture is known to a relatively small number of people. It's his goal to increase that pool. Now, there are 3 time scales in thinking about Heart Mountain that give breadth and depth to how mixed up, heterogeneous is the word I'm going to keep throwing out here, right? A heterogeneous mixture of of people and geology that makes this mountain stand out the way it does. So it stands out on the geological map, it stands out on the cultural maps of many people. It's a heterogeneous place. So in this first little lecture, I'm going to lay out the geological and the anthropological heterogeneity. We're going to get a sense of what this mountain's doing out there in the middle of this basin, and also for which people has it been important. So, at the geological scale, due to volcanic activity 50 million years ago over in good old Yellowstone region, a slab of rock that was 25 miles to the north of here, 4 to 5 kilometers thick, broke apart from atop the Beartooth Plateau and slid across the glacial ices at something like 100 miles per hour, one of the most violent geological movements on the globe, riding the front edge of the massive receding ice sheet, with a chunk of it coming to rest out here on the basin, an island of ancient ocean bottom resting at 8,000 feet. In geological terms, it is a clippe, K-L-I-P-P-E, clippe, a chunk of rock that was clipped off and sent rolling on the ball bearings of glacial till. Over the centuries, the basin soils have eroded away due to the fierce winds, but the resilient bedrock of the clippe has protected the sedimentary layers below it, forming a broadly shouldered peak that can be seen from hundreds of miles away. Next time you're driving up this way, I hope you have your eye out for it. I read this clippe as a metaphor of indigenous presence in North America. Many of America's indigenous people experienced major upheavals that fractured them from their homelands and launched them violently across the land in cataclysmic journeys, trails of tears. Dislocated, they rode the growing edge of the glacier of conquest, step by step, impacted by technologies that included horses, guns, wagons, and railroads. When they finally landed, their bedrock was atop the newly settled soils of Manifest Destiny. By recovering the stories of their dislocation and revitalizing their cultural inheritance, many tribes across North and South America are becoming recognizable landmarks, providing orientations for all who can see the potential energy, healing, and knowledge that they contribute to a world that is tearing apart at its ecological and economic seams. So, I'm saying this landmark represents an awful lot of indigenous presence on the American landscape today. People who had been dislocated and moved across these horrific trails of tears, but who now stand as landmarks regarding how we relate ourselves to the land, and even in our economic exchange relationships with each other. All right, so we go from geology, a kind of geological metaphor, to anthropology. Here's the anthropological heterogeneity, and it can be seen in the names of the mountain. So the first name, I'm calling its indigenous name, and that is Heart Mountain. Also, Buffalo Heart Mountain was often used. And this name then signifies the 12,000 years of sustained semi-nomadic presence in the region. Friesian has done significant work in this area, so we know about buffalo pits and all kinds of stuff that has happened over here. And Heart Mountain, as a prominent landmark, mentioned by many different tribes. So that notion of a semi-nomadic movement of people who would have used it to orient them, particularly to get to the Shoshone River and its access up into Yellowstone. Then I'm going to use I should be using the to look and see what my next slide is. Let me go forward and then backwards if I need to. All right, so I'm just going to run over this quick. Then I'm going to describe Foretop's father, regarding its particular relationship to Crow people. Then I'm going to refer to it as Heart Mountain, as that appears on the maps that begin to be produced by the settler cultures as they enter the area and establish a conquest in the region. And then Lone Heart Mountain, which is the name that was used by the Japanese American internees. For those of you who didn't know, between Cody and Powell on the shoulders of Heart Mountain was one of the Japanese American relocation camps. 10,000 people lived there in uninsulated barracks from 42 to 45, and it was the third largest town in Wyoming at the time. So, and that mountain figures in the poetry, in the art, in the memories of the folks who were relocated there. And there's now a new interpretive center there. So this mountain has carried massive significance for at least these 4 different groups. All right, so the first one got 12,000 years of evidence in the region, and that it was named Buffalo Heart Mountain or Heart Mountain by many of those tribes. Here is the contact zone. And here we are shifting into the, let me just, when we think about settler conquest and the movement of Minnesota and Michigan Native Americans across, impacting Plains people, impacting Rocky Mountain people, this map illustrates the folks in the region who would have recognized Heart Mountain right here, probably in between the 2 E's of sheep. They would have recognized Heart Mountain in their maps, their mental maps of the region, because it points to one of the best access lines into Yellowstone and guides you down towards the Wind Rivers, which were such prolific spots. Now I've got to stop, and we'll pick this up with the next one. All right, so let's see if I go like this, and I go like this. I'll stop.